In classical music, we talk about concerts. We need to think about making our concerts into events. In this mini series about curating, we've so far looked at programming, the music you choose, and production, the way you animate your program with lighting, stagecraft, and ambient information. Well, today we look at how elements of programming and production can explode your concert into an event. We want to think about how a concert can anchor a much fuller experience, one that brings in a diverse range of artists that can perform in traditionally dead parts of a concert. Think about pre- and post-concert events. Think about what happens during intermission. And this incorporates elements of programming and production. On my classical club show, Mercury Sol, we always surround the audience with several different stages so we can present, say, a tabla player or experimental jazz band. This allows us to draw connections between the genres that wouldn't be possible if we only had one stage. We also presented a show called Burlesque Beats, which is based on the music of the 1920s French underground, but continued to draw connections all the way to today's aerial artists and dancers. Now, this kind of approach can devolve pretty quickly into literally a circus, unless you make some substantive connections between the programming and platform elements. For example, in Burlesque Beats, we had specially composed interludes flow out of the music of the 1920s, say a piece by Kurt Weill, into a DJ set that incorporated elements of Circus Street on the dance floor. Platform can bring in artists from beyond even the musical field, such as visual arts or in dance. On the Chicago Symphony's Music Now series, Anna Klein and I worked to bring visual artists into the design of the shows and even the program books. Here's another example of programming flowing directly into platform. Here's DJ Justin Reed of Chicago playing modular synthesizers and turntables in the lobby of the Kennedy Center. This setup might not have worked so well after a string quartet, but it flowed perfectly after the music of Michael Stein and Kyle Dixon, the analog synthesizer duo behind the music of Stranger Things. If you're going to transform your concert into a platform, you've got to think about every element from beginning to end. Here's a concert called Of Land and Sea that explored music about geography, from Christopher Rouse to John Luther Adams. The audience entered a space that looked like a desert and came out to find themselves in a jungle. That was made possible by projection mapping and sound design, but that's not always possible, particularly when you get into fairly imposing spaces, such as many of the concert halls we have to deal with. The Kennedy Center's Hall of Nations is a good example. It's a beautiful memorial to John Kennedy, but it's pretty hard to change the vibe. In the case of Justin, we made his modular synthesizers a kind of art piece, taking away the stage altogether. Now, the Stranger Things concert is a good example of flipping the script, taking someone you might normally envision as a post-party artist and putting him on the center of the concert. So in that case, it's necessary to program around them and to find music that contextualizes what they do. We brought in the Spectral Quartet from Chicago to play the music of Johann Johansson. The Thievery Corporation is another example of KC Jukebox flipping the script. Thievery Corporation is an internationally famous band. They come from Washington and have a huge following, and their music is rich and psychedelic in a way that we thought would work well with an orchestra. Again, the platform model is using your concert as an anchor for lots of ancillary experiences that come out of the event. One way to go further than just the concert itself is to education. For example, Mercury Sol has been offering free shows to high school students the afternoon before our evening concerts. There's so many great elementary and middle school programs, but high school students are often left out of the mix. Initially, we just brought the students in to experience the same show that would be going that evening, but then we decided to make it more participatory. The platform approach is already happening in a lot of really cool places. Just look at what the Los Angeles Philharmonic does with the Hollywood Bowl, or the New World Symphony does on the roof of their building, or what Tanglewood does on their lawn, or Sun Valley Summer Symphony. So in this mini series about curating, we've looked at programming and the ways that a diverse approach can inform concerts, and the ways that production elements such as lighting, stagecraft, and ambient information can animate those programs. Today we looked at how a concert becomes a platform for a wide variety of artists. Where does it leave us today as we look to bring the concert experience into people's homes digitally? We still need to stay focused on the live experience. It's the core of what happens in classical music. And the more vibrant a concert sounds, looks, and feels, and the more interesting the program notes explode around the audience, the more compelling it's going to be online. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's been a joy to put this together.